One of the things that top fighters figure out is that it's always best to play to your strengths and attempt to nullify your opponent's strengths. So if you've got longer arms than your opponent, as was the case with Ohara Davies against Ismael Barroso, then you want to utilize those longer arms. You want to keep your opponent on the end of your punches, even when you're coming forward. Tyson Fury demonstrated that perfectly in the second Deontay Wilder fight. He was on the front foot, he was pushing Deontay Wilder back, but he was doing so at the end of a long jab. Vladimir Klitschko, who was also, of course, trained by the Kronk team, did the very same thing for much of his career. In many of his fights, he'd be on the front foot, pressing the action, but he'd be maintaining that reach, keeping the opponents on the end of long, straight punches as he comes forward. So when they do throw punches back, and they were typically shorter than Vladimir Klitschko, these fighters, they'd be falling short with their shots because their arms aren't quite as long. Ohara Davies didn't do that against Ismael Barroso. He was right there in mid-range, looking to exchange shots against the guy who's a big puncher. And that's another thing that top fighters typically watch out for. If their opponent can really bang, they're a bit circumspect early on. Even if they can punch themselves, they tend to do a bit of a reconnaissance mission in the first couple rounds. But again, with Ohara Davies against Ismael Barroso, none of that. He wanted to get stuck in right away. Curiously, according to the DAZN commentary team, Ohara Davies before the fight said he wanted to punch in between Barroso's shots. Well, when your arms are much longer than your opponent's arms, it's more likely that he's going to be punching in between your shots if you're exchanging at mid or close range. The arc of your punches is wider than your opponent, so he has the advantage at mid and close range. Another thing that top fighters learn is that you should never judge an opponent based upon the way they look. Never judge a book by its cover. Ismael Barroso is 40 years old, but if he was walking down the street in Venezuela and somebody told you he was 50 or 55, maybe even 60, you wouldn't question it. Whether consciously or subconsciously, Barroso's appearance may have the effect of lulling you into a full sense of security because he looks so old. When you're much younger in actual years, but also in physical appearance, you might just assume, well, my reflexes are going to be so much faster than this guy's. My hand speed's going to be better, my foot speed's going to be better, I'm more athletic. When that may not necessarily be the case. As I said earlier on, this is why it's important when you're going up against a puncher to do that scouting mission in the first couple rounds. See what he has. Now, with all that being said, I'm not saying that if Ohara Davies had been more circumspect in his approach that he would have won, but he may not have been stopped so early as he was in this fight, taken out in one round. Terribly embarrassing for him. And as for the stoppage, I thought it was perfectly fine by the referee. I'm not 100% sure how hurt Ohara Davies was or wasn't, but as Dwyer said in his video about this fight, the referee is looking for any reason, any little sign or signal from the stricken fighter of distress or lack of coherence, etc. So you need to make it obvious to the referee that you're coherent, that you're fully present. You need to be animated in your responses to him, or else there's a chance that he's going to stop the fight, he's going to pull the plug, even if you beat the count, even if you're not swaying back and forth like a Mortal Kombat character at the end of a match when they say finish him. Ohara Davies did look at the ref, but then he kept looking away. Presumably he was looking at his corner, but you're supposed to look at your corner when you're on the floor. Ohara Davies didn't do that. He jumped up way too quick from both knockdowns instead of staying down, looking at your corner and waiting for them to tell you when to get up. Maybe he was out of it to the extent that he forgot to do that, or he was just so embarrassed to have been dropped in the first round that caused him to get up far too quickly. Whatever the case may be, his response to the ref wasn't enthusiastic enough. I see why the referee stopped it. Another thing I forgot to mention is, according to Ohara Davies, he sparred Rolly Romero back in the days and destroyed him in the gym. He obviously feels he's a much better fighter now than he was when he sparred Rolly all those years back. Rolly Romero, of course, struggled badly against Ismael Barroso and got a controversial win over him because the referee Tony Weeks stepped in prematurely in the eyes of many people, including myself. As such, Ohara Davies may have been overlooking the fact that boxing is rock, paper, scissors. Just because you destroyed Rolly Romero in the gym and he went on to get a result over Ismael Barroso, it doesn't mean you're going to do as well against Barroso as Rolly did. So there are lots of lessons to be learned here for Ohara Davies. Can he come back from this? We shall see. One of the things that he has in his favor is the fact that he himself is a very good puncher. And when you can crack, you're always in with a shout. As for Ismael Barroso, well, definitely an Indian summer in his career. He's going to obviously feel very happy about the fact he's got himself in this position again after the disappointment of the Rolly Romero fight. He's a wily old vet. He can punch. He can walk you onto shots, as we saw against Ohara Davies. Maybe he'll be looking for that rematch with Rolly Romero, or maybe he'll go for a bigger name and try and make more money. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this result and about where you think both fighters go from here. Let me know.